Hello everybody, I'm Jacob, the community manager with Paradox Studio Black. Today we're reading the words of our game director, Alexander Oltner, as we cover everything that happened in 2025. Another year has passed and the game grows ever larger. Before we look back on 2025, allow me to look back to 2017 for a moment. A mere 2 years after our game director had started working at Paradox, we released Jade Dragon for Crusader Kings 2, an expansion that was somewhat of a compromise between adding Asia and not adding it. We designed systems of tribute and grace where you could request various things from an immaterial, off-the-map version of China with a Western protectorate and a very artificial invasion of China, acting as a sort of in-game boss for player empires reaching their height. We toyed with the idea of adding Asia on the map back then, but ultimately it was not possible due to a variety of concerns, such as performance, etc. Crusader Kings 2 was not a game meant for expansion on that scale. But Crusader Kings 3 is. It was the dream of our game director, as well as others on the CK2 team that followed us to the CK3 team today, to one day have the entirety of the interconnected medieval old world playable, to have the possibility of literally going from Ireland to Cathay. And now, in 2025, this is finally reality. We worked long and hard, the longest we've worked on any expansion in fact, to make sure that completing the map would feel seamless and not impact the game negatively. Tick speed, or how fast days pass in-game, needed to be roughly the same, the existing content needed to feel appropriate, etc. The amount of such maintenance needed was immense, but it was clear what we had to do. There was no shortage of discussions, feedback, and tales of caution from you and the community. We collected this, weighed it carefully, and incorporated all of it into our plans. We also continued having early and in-depth dev diaries, so that we could change and update things while there was still time. The early feedback loop proved as invaluable in 2025 as it was in 2024, and we will continue to collect feedback as early and as openly as we can in the future. Across the steppes, in the verdant reaches of China, and throughout the insular lands of Japan and Southeast Asia, we now have more of you playing than ever before. Yes, even more people are playing CK3 now than when the game was first released, which is absolutely mind-boggling. To see so many of you playing and enjoying the game this many years after it was first released is extremely humbling. And it's not only new players, but returning players, those of you who might not have played for a while. For one beautiful day, we even surpassed Hearts of Iron 4 and how many active players we have. And it's not stopping. More and more of you are playing every day that passes. We hope that what we've made will continue to bring you joy throughout the winter and the holidays, all while we're working on what's coming next. But first, let's recap the year in more detail, starting by going through the content in the order it was released. We started off 2025 with a big realm maintenance update, containing improved combat AI, automated armies, info on allied armies, an updated interaction user interface, a large update to court positions including tasks and a new interface, as well as many other things. It was essentially a mix of issues reported by you in the community and projects from our internal Blackforge jam. The realm maintenance team knocked it out of the park with this one. And on a surprising note, we saw a very large number of players trying it out, causing a significant spike in player numbers. This is not very common, as free updates tend to receive much less attention than expansions. We have quite a lot of data from across all of the games in our portfolio on this point. But this update broke the pattern, proving that it's a valuable format and one we should continue with in the future. Thank you for this, as we were always a big proponent of having substantial free updates, and this data helps a lot. Our realm maintenance team is already hard at work on another dedicated update, probably landing sometime in the second quarter of 2026. And without saying too much, we're looking into working together with a certain someone that many of the community already know quite well. The first project our game director worked on when joining Paradox back in 2015 was, interestingly enough, Horse Lords for Crusader Kings 2, a very fun expansion that allowed you to burn the world to the ground, but didn't really represent life on the steppe incredibly well. We knew from the start that in Crusader Kings 3, we needed a grander focus on movement, through migrations, invasions, and sweeping seasonal changes. At the same time, not all nomads migrated all the time. Most had summer and winter pastures, but few of the larger hordes abandoned their lands outright. Nomads were one of our favorite governments in Crusader Kings 2, so we really wanted to nail the feeling this time around. With that in mind, we designed a system where smaller nomads tend to migrate around, finding the best spot to graze their herd and increase their strength to challenge larger nomads, eventually finding a place for their people to thrive, until the Havers and Sud comes along. Then the settled lands to the west and south might look more tempting than before. Instead of having their power tied to lands, nomads have great herds, which is both their livelihood and their military, meaning that any loss in combat is felt much harder than it ever would feel for one of those rich and content settled rulers. Nomads also use herd to upgrade their nomadic capital, recruit men-at-arms, find good courtiers, and enforce obedience. Basically, every facet of nomadic life is tied to the size of their herd. And if the herd of one particular nomad grows large enough, they can claim the mantle of the greatest of Khans, unless the world bands together to stop them, of course. We got a lot of great feedback for Khans of the Steppe ahead of its release, and that's because we decided to decouple our dev diaries from the marketing schedule, essentially skipping ahead and revealing what we were working on much earlier than we normally do. There are risks to this, of course, as talking about something too early might have excitement for the project die down earlier than we'd want, but that was not the case here. Instead, we got a ton of feedback that we could comfortably fit into the development schedule, with the funny side effect of not being able to explicitly say what we were working on. We still did it in a wink-wink, nudge-nudge kind of way, but there was nobody who didn't know what we were working on after the first dev diary. We're going to keep having dev diaries as early as possible for all of our expansions going forward. This year's smaller update was Coronations, which added the activity of the same name, a new, somewhat costly ordeal to cement the role of a new ruler ascending to the throne, with the longer they put it off, the less legitimate they're perceived. When the activity is held, there's lots of intents to choose from depending on how you want to start off your rule. And as a vassal or foreign guest, you have the opportunity to support or disrupt the coronation, giving you reason to travel far to forge alliances or weaken your enemies. The coronation activity is also one of the most content-filled activities we've done, with about as much content as an event pack stuffed into a single activity. Now, the launch of Coronations didn't go well, with a game-breaking bug and some severe balance issues hampering it. These issues boil down to two things. We were changing things too recklessly too late in the development cycle, and we didn't play enough longer sessions towards the end of the cycle. We had assigned almost everyone on the team to All Under Heaven, which left Coronations with few people to tie the bag together, so to speak. This was unfair and unacceptable, both to the team working on the project and to you. But we're taking learnings from what happened and applying them to everything we're doing from now on. For example, we now have several developers constantly playing longer sessions up until the release itself, in order to minimize the risk of obvious game-breaking bugs or balance issues slipping through. We started doing this already with All Under Heaven, where we had a constant stream of play logs, essentially an after-action report focusing on fun and stability, delivered to the studio every week, usually with 3 to 5 of them or more, with dedicated meetings afterwards to process the feedback from them. We're also looking to focus on our larger expansions in 2026, putting event packs on hold. The highlight of the year, however, was All Under Heaven, which is the biggest expansion we've ever done, expanding the map more than ever before by including all of Asia. This expansion was a gargantuan effort by the team, and we knew we wanted to do each of the new areas justice from the very beginning. We divided the expansion into 3 main areas of focus, and the same within the team: China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. There was also overlap with Khans of the Steppe, and several members of the team worked on features we knew that both expansions needed, such as tributaries and situations. We did a lot of research, consulted experts, and brought in a large group of new beta program participants with a variety of backgrounds, all to make sure that the features we chose were accurate, fun, and interesting. For China, we decided to model the dynastic cycle, the historical concept of the rise and fall of dynasties. For Japan, we modeled the rise of the Soryo and the fall of the Ritsuryo. And for Southeast Asia, we modeled the worship of god-kings and construction of great temple cities. 3 very different ways to play the game, and 3 unique ways to represent these incredibly diverse areas. Still, it all fits together. The world is interconnected, with things happening on one side of the map having ripple effects on the other, and vice versa. One fun tidbit from the development of All Under Heaven was that we wanted to complete the map once and for all by adding all of the old world that was connected during the medieval era. But our map dimensions still couldn't make room for Zanzibar, which was an important trade hub during the Middle Ages. This led to endless jokes about Zanzibar within the team, until someone took it upon themselves to make sure that Zanzibar actually made it onto the map. Yes, we had to quite severely distort the coast of East Africa to get it there, but now it's there, and we have pretty much all of the important medieval lands on the map in Crusader Kings 3. Before we end this section, we have to give thanks to the many fantastic beta program participants, both new and old, who helped us out with insight, research, and feedback throughout the development cycle. A special thank you goes out to our participants from the region itself. Without your insight and knowledge, this would have been an impossible task. As with previous years, we will soon be retiring Chapter 4, after which the contents will be folded into the collection bundle, as usual. The individual expansions will, also as usual, still be available as standalone products. We're also looking into adding a subscription, similar to how other Paradox games do it, but we'll talk more about that sometime in the future. If you want to buy the chapter with its current discount, you may want to consider doing so soon. The last date for purchasing Chapter 4 is January 14th, 2026. Speaking of 2026, let's take a quick look at our plans for next year. As has now become tradition, we will be doing another chapter. This time we're shifting our focus slightly. If 2025 was the year of going wide by adding nomads in all of Asia, then 2026 will be a year of depth. We're going back to revisit some parts of the game that'll deepen the overall game experience. Just like how Roads to Power set the stage for All Under Heaven, the All Under Heaven expansion is setting the stage for this future content. There are some central areas of the game that we've been itching to improve for a long time now, and I'm sure those of you who have been around for a while will be able to figure out what the theme for the next major expansion is most likely going to be. With that, however, here's a teaser for next year's content. It's more of a hint for one of the expansions than the other, but I'm sure you can figure both of them out if you put your minds to it. In 2026, we're also going to continue working with talented modders from our community to develop new content for the game. It's always great to work directly with our community like this, and personally, I really like that we get to expand areas that would otherwise be unlikely for us in the studio to focus on. Getting pitches and suggestions from our mod community is a genuinely great experience, as you never really know what'll be suggested. Having a community that is this creative and willing to work with us truly is a blessing. Our thanks go out to all the modders out there for putting so much love and effort into creating new experiences for Crusader Kings 3. As we already said, we started off 2025 with a realm maintenance update, and because it was so successful, we want to do the same again next year. This time, the update will likely come out early in the second quarter of the year, and we'll have people from the studio assigned to work on fixes and improvements until then. We'll focus on 3 main areas for the update: fixing bugs with a focus on what you and the community want to see fixed the most, working together with the aforementioned mystery guest to make improvements to the game, and refining some projects from this year's Blackforge Jam. One of the Jam projects from this year relates to one of the most requested improvements in the community: accolades. We want to remove the tedium of selecting accolade successors and make having accolades a more rewarding experience for you. Accolade knights will now always automatically be succeeded by a squire, the quality of which is determined by how well the knight performed during their life. We also want to improve clarity around attributes, make them more interactive, and add more agency by gaining the ones you want. Glory will also get a bit of a revamp, so it's no longer lost when knights die in battle. It's their job, after all, and dying in battle can be quite glorious in this time frame. We're still working on the user interface and presentation of the feature, so keep in mind that it's going to look a little different when it's finished. We also made some new accolade-related illustrations that fit different cultures, which you can see on screen now. Another system that we've improved during the Jam is one that modders are probably familiar with already, as it's an excellent way to control and contain various types of content: story cycles. Story cycles, or as they will be known in-game, stories, can now be visualized. To access them, you go to the New Situations tab introduced in All Under Heaven. We thought this made sense because a story is a personal situation of sorts. Most of you have probably had a pet cat or a pet dog in the game. They're invisible in-game apart from some sparse events and a single modifier in the character view, but there's actually a lot of information we already store about them. Fur color, age, etc. It's all there but not shown, until now. The story cycle visualization is very flexible. You can connect decisions, modifiers, characters, titles, artifacts, show variables as progress bars, etc. This means that each story shows what is the most important to it, and that most story cycles will look completely different from each other. For example, the Conqueror story now shows information that couldn't really be shown anywhere else: how it can end. Before, this would come as an unpleasant surprise, but now it's written clearly in a place you can easily access. For other stories, it allows us to remind the player of what they're doing, how they're doing, and who they're doing it for. For example, in the Song of El Cid, which tracks your loyalty to your informal liege, Sancho II. There are also a lot of cycles in the game that you're never really aware of. Maybe you clicked the event away quickly, or it looked innocent enough to not rouse suspicion. But now these are visualized, and you can track the important pieces. In the example shown on screen now, you won't lose track of your doppelganger, as their portrait will be connected to the story, alongside some ominous information. 2025 has been a fantastic year for us. We've expanded the game more than ever before in a very literal sense, with the addition of Asia and multiple new playstyles. Again, we want to extend our most sincere thanks to all of you in the community who keep discussing what you want to see from the game, especially since All Under Heaven wouldn't have become what it is without your feedback. We're now going into 2026 working on new expansions inspired by your feedback and discussions, so please continue sharing your thoughts and wishes so we can take them into account for the future. And with that, 2025 is concluded for Paradox Studio Black. Soon enough, we'll meet again, with Dev Diaries about the Realm Maintenance update coming sometime before its release next year. For now, we wish you a beautiful winter, happy holidays, and a very God Yule. You know, we do the Black Forge Jam basically every year now, but this was the first year that I was assigned to a team, and I worked on accolades alongside several designers and programmers. So if the accolades rework isn't up to your expectations, you can safely blame me for it.